Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Namaste. I am deeply honored to deliver this statement as chair of the group of the least developed countries. At the outset, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Secretary General for convening this historic and significant summit. Mr. President, the group of LDCs have contributed in the best possible manner to make the summit of the future a success. However, our minds are musing and hearts are hurting from the fact that millions of children in LDCs go hungry every day. When millions of our children go hungry today, where is our future? What do we mean by future? When millions of our youth languish with malnourishment and illiteracy, where can we seek our future? Nothing could be more unjust and unethical than to be ignorant to the fact that millions of people in LDCs living in extreme poverty, while a small minority in some corners of the world accumulates billions in wealth each day. Is this the future we aspire to? Absolutely not. International community must act now to ensure every child and young person has the chance to thrive. Mr. President, LDCs face severe economic challenges with unmet ODA and climate financing commitments, insufficient and delayed international support, and spiraling debt distress. Most critically, global financial and trading regimes remain fundamentally unfavorable to LDCs. Furthermore, the growing digital divide between rich and poor countries threatens to leave LDCs even further behind. Despite contributing a mere 3.3% of global greenhouse gas emission, LDCs are among the most vulnerable to the devastating impacts of
I wish also to record on this occasion our profound appreciation of the great services rendered by the Secretary General U Thant to the cause of peace within and without the United Nations. I would therefore confine myself to more general observations which nevertheless are of fundamental importance to us. My country has come to the United Nations with as much faith in its organization as in its charter, with as much faith in its effectiveness as in its ideal. For to a small country as mine, Mr. President, the United Nations represents the ideal as well as the practical. It satisfies us insofar as it helps us to work actively for larger unity and for peace and prosperity of mankind. It satisfies us also insofar as it secures us morally and materially against encroachment and interference from others. History tells us, Mr. President, that in spite of the dreamers from the big powers, small nations will stay with us for a long time to come. No conqueror ever succeeded in bringing the whole world under his heel. There were always small nations which refused to conform to his dictates or to his wishes. It is more than certain that small nations will survive the present atomic age also, and that they will be larger in number than the big nations. If this is so, it is necessary that the United Nations, while working with the cooperation of the big powers, which is no doubt essential, ensures that the small nations continue to have full confidence in it. To inspire this general confidence, the United Nations must exert itself seriously and be an effective instrument of peace. It can't be such an effective instrument, Mr. President, unless all people feel that justice is ensured to nations big and small, unless all nations big and small are in it, and unless indeed nations in general and big powers in particular are prepared to subordinate their narrow national interests to the larger cause of humanity. There has been no progress towards general disarmament. The partial nuclear test ban treaty, though a positive step, is at best an inadequate step. Again, there has been a positive development recently in the field of nuclear non-proliferation, as the United States and the Soviet Union have agreed on a draft. We have welcomed this as well as other positive developments. But this little progress made towards non-proliferation in the form of an agreed draft has been more than neutralized. Mr. President, by other developments in the two countries as well as in others, which have felt that the proposed treaty has failed to insist on adequate reciprocal obligations of the nuclear powers. However, the improvement in the Soviet-US relations is genuine. This relaxation of tension between the two countries should be reflected in the increased effectiveness of the United Nations. But that is not yet the case. The ever-explosive German problem has always remained outside the United Nations and has remained unsolved. The crisis in Vietnam, with all its attendant tragedy, has touched only the fringe of the United Nations because the Secretary General, more as an individual dedicated to the passionate pursuit of peace than as the spokesman